What was the hardest obstacle to overcome from up until about 15, 16?
The hardest obstacle was myself. I started realizing more and more and more that all these people were gone. What was haunting me was me. I can't control my dad. I can't control the people calling me nigger. I can't control all these things, but they were things that kept me down. It started becoming my reality. My reality was what they made it out to be. And I became the most important conversation you'll ever have with your life, in your life is when you have yourself. And my conversation was absolutely horrifying.
What were you saying to yourself?
I'm dumb, I'm nobody. My dad was great in mental warfare. A drunk, insecure man will make everybody around him feel like hell.
Yeah.
Because he wants to give you no power. And that's why he was so mean to my mom and myself and my brother, because he didn't want anybody to get above him. He wanted to keep you down low. So when you're growing up with all this stuff, all this hate, and it wasn't the beatings. I could hit the beatings all day. It was the mental torture. So when, at a young age, your parents put a dialogue in you of confidence or you're nobody. So that voice in my head was, I'm a loser. And then it was confirmed when I got in school, and in 3rd grade, I was falling behind. They want to put me in a special school. Yeah. With kids who can't learn. Right. Then it was confirmed what my dad was saying. So that confirmed it. Then I started cheating. So I started realizing, I'm taking the easy way out again. Yeah. And it started snowballing from there. Now the kids are calling me nigger. But it wasn't all the kids. So what happens is you start to get this picture that everybody hates you because your reality becomes so big that you can't see the clear picture.
It might have been 3 or 4 kids.
That's it.
Doing it over and over.
Right, but it was the whole town.
Yeah.
Everybody hated me. So
the world hates me.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's when it became toxic. And that is where I became my worst enemy. I was obsessed with Rocky. Rocky 1 in particular. And when I was a kid, I come home every day and I watched this show, Rocky. And I would fast forward with the little VHS tapes to round 14. Round 14 f***ed me up like nobody's business. Why? This song came on. When I bought the pull-up record, I listened to the song for 17 hours. It's 2 minutes and 13 seconds. And I'm able to visualize and dream. Like Apollo Creed was champ. He was the best. Rocky had taken his soul. Had literally taken his soul. His head goes down. He looks at him like, what the f are you? I wanted to be that. Not Rocky. I wanted to be the guy that people looked at. I don't care if you like me or didn't like. I don't care. But it said this is going to keep coming after whatever the f is in front of him. I wanted that. I wanted that. I wanted that worse than anything in the world. So that is, I kept picturing me falling down and getting up, and every that called me nigger, I was dumb. Even myself, I wanted to feel something besides defeat. I wanted to just go the distance. And that going the distance pushed me to a point of where now I go way past the distance. Whenever life would start getting good for me, God would throw a nice anchor and stop me right there. So I'm going through pararescue training, and there's this evolution called water confidence. And water confidence is pretty much what gets people kicked out of special forces, special operations is the water. And they try to drown you, pretty much. This was not in the warning order, so I didn't know anything about water confidence. Long story short, what it is they put 16-pound weight belts on you, whatever they can do to make you uncomfortable in the water. So for 6 weeks of a 10-week program, I became very uncomfortable. We got down to about 25, 30 guys left. I was one of them. And getting near graduation of this program, I'm thinking, my God, I'm about to get through this. Barely though. Water confidence is killing me.
Right.
They took me to medical. They drew my blood and realized I have sickle cell.
Yeah.
So sickle cell is a blood disease that some African Americans have, which is not good.
No. So
they took me out training for a week. And when you go from being uncomfortable, that's your lifestyle, you get used to being uncomfortable.
Right.
when you go back to being comfortable, your mind says, I don't want to go back to being uncomfortable again.
That's right.
So I was like, I don't want to go back to the water. So my whole mindset was, I want to get out of this training. So I was hoping that they were going to medically disqualify me from pararescue program. That didn't happen. A week later, the doc called me in the office and said, hey, guess what, man? We're going to put you back into training. I was like, okay, well, I missed a week. I got about 2.5 weeks left. I can do this. I went back to the, to the CEO, the commanding officer. He said, hey, guess what? We're going to start you back from day one. And when he said that to me, my mind went back to the old David Goggins. So I thought I had changed. Learning how to swim, learning how to read and write. All I was doing was attacking the surface. I wasn't getting down into the dungeon of what was really bothering me. So whenever like tough times would happen, any tough time that would, really tough time that would happen, I would go back to the sewer of my mind. So this happened, I went back to lying. I said, hey, you know what, CEO? This guy, the doc didn't know about sickle cell. He didn't give me a good reason why. He's talking about sudden death, heart attack, stroke. I'm not comfortable. So he gave me a medical from pararescue. So he allowed me to leave. But I really quit. I didn't want to go back in the water again. And that's when I went from weighing 175 pounds to 297 in about 3.5 years.
Wow.
So I did a job called TAC-P, controlling fast movers behind enemy lines. But that job wasn't a job that I wanted. And the spiral of depression, of trying to find things that I was comfortable doing. And whenever you find things that you're comfortable doing, you're going away from the journey of life. And I was going so far away from my journey that my weight showed my whole mindset.
What was the greatest lesson your mom taught you growing up?
Honestly, the greatest lesson she ever taught me is a lesson that she doesn't know how much she taught me, because she wasn't much in the teaching mode. My dad took her soul. But what I did as a young kid is I observed everybody. I wasn't really smart in the books, but I was real smart when it came to life. And I was able to sit back and watch her mistakes. I was able to see how she struggled through life and how I don't want to struggle through life. And I was able to see she never picked me up. The biggest thing she did for me, and this is the honest to God truth, and she doesn't even know she did it. When I would bust my ass, and I would fail, when I was at the bottom of the sewer, she never picked me up. She never gave me that cookie and said, hey son, it's gonna be okay. She didn't have time for that. And sometimes she gets upset when I talk about my past because it paints her out to be not the best mom. If I had any kind of mom in that kind of environment, I would have never made it. Because she forced me, for whatever reason, she forced me to you better figure this out or you're gonna be a statistic. And this is something that she didn't sit down and tell me. I realized this. This is the world that is in front of me. And what most people do is they see this world and they look at it as an excuse to get out of it. I started looking at it as this is the ultimate training ground for the rest of my life. I have all these valuable lessons, because if you look out in the world right now today, it's not a nice place. But I'm very prepared for it. I'm prepared for it. I'm prepared for all the failure coming my way. I'm prepared for everything my way. And that's the biggest lesson that she taught me by not teaching me. By never saying it's gonna be okay. Matter of fact, she told me the exact opposite. Life sucks. When your mind, this is this whole 40% rule I talk about all the time, that I made up a long time ago. I started making it up through pain.
Tell them what that is, where'd you go?
So basically the 40% rule is, I am a strong believer that we quit. Because why? How the f does a 297-pound cockroach guy who quit on everything is now considered one of the best men on the planet? How is that possible? It means I had to change one thing, my mindset. So there's no way in hell that was in, but that guy was in me. When that guy came down here and said, hey, guess what, man? You're a fat ass, but I'm gonna now make you a badass. I'm gonna miracle this to be a badass. No, it was in me. I had to believe and make that belief work. And through hard work, I did that. So the 40% rule is like we have like a car. Some cars have a governor on it. And when you get to like 92 miles an hour, that car start doing this because it can't go any faster. Those cars that don't have governors on, like a fast ass whatever, Porsche or whatever, I'm gonna bury it, gone. We have that ability in us, but we have put this governor on our minds. And you have to, the factory that put the governor on that car, the factory is now you. That put that shit on your mind. You gotta take that off. Until you take it off, you're gonna constantly get to 92 miles an hour and do this. Because you ain't gonna go no faster. As a matter of fact, you might even go slower. You're gonna find peace from going to war with yourself. Because we all got shit. We all got shit. People look at me. The reason why my story resonates with people, because I don't hide. I'll tell you exactly who the fuck I am. I will admit to it. People are great at hiding. So they want to just find peace. No, you gotta take your shit, fix whatever's fucked up in you. Don't just shove it under the rug. Fix it, and then you'll find some peace later. Everybody thinks I'm the world's toughest ever lived. If I just talk about, I broke the pull-up record, I did all these races, I went through SEAL training, I was in 3 hell weeks, Ranger school. If I talk about all the badassery, like we like to do on social media, and I don't tell you that I was a fucked up kid, and I was scared of shit, and I was depressed and insecure, and all this shit, what good am I for anybody?
Right.
I'm a superhero, but I'm a liar. I'm that now, but I wasn't born that. I had to make myself into this shit. Even Saljo was my recruiter. I walked in weighing 297, he looked at me strangely, and I said, I want to be a SEAL. And lucky enough, the guy looked at me and said, let's see what we can do. He weighed me, I weighed 106 pounds overweight. The guy said, man, there's a program that's about to end, that you can go, and if you make it through BUDS, you'll then go active duty, and you'll be a SEAL. If not, you come to home. And I was like, ugh. So anyway, he goes, make you lose 106 pounds in less than 3 months.
How did you lose the weight in 3 months? You just run your ass off? Or?
I couldn't run. The first thing about it was, so I said to myself, I'm gonna run 4 miles. My first run, out the gate, I'm gonna run 4 miles. I ran a mile, I ran a quarter of a mile, walked home, sat on the couch depressed. I said, man, there's no way I can do this. But what I realized though, is I wasn't gonna give up. Because I already given up a million times. And I thought about, how would I feel at 50 years old?
If you gave up now.
If I gave up now. I mean, not to have, so I kept all this stuff in my mind. And basically, I started becoming obsessed. I slowly, it didn't happen that night on the couch. Over a period of time, I started becoming obsessed with studying, with weight, with being somebody, with making people who thought I was gonna be nothing, kind of like, feel like I became obsessed with, you have to make this right. And the only person that's gonna do it is yourself. So I became obsessed with just being obsessed. When I started getting these emails from people saying, hey, you know what? You changed my life. That part changed my life. That part of your story changed my life. And because I have so many different parts of my life that so many people resonate with different spots. Maybe it's the obese part. Maybe it's the bullying part. Maybe it's the learning disability part. Maybe it's the abusive parent part. Whatever it may be. So many people draw from my story, and I started getting these emails. And I was like, God, man, and I'm a big believer in something more powerful than me. I don't know what it is, but I'm not the end all. So I was like, I gotta start doing more. If I'm touching these people's lives,
a few people here and there,
maybe I need to go out here and do some more. God put me in a very interesting spot in life where he made hell my teacher. He made hell my teacher. And a lot of people don't understand that. So I'm trying to give people a different thought process of life where failure, hell, disappointment, discomfort is a great learning tool. And many people don't understand that. And a lot of people won't even understand this interview when we get done with it. But it's these few moments in life that you have. Like for me, I always talk about it. Rocky 1, round 14. That 1 2-minute and 13-second clip of Rocky getting up when Apollo knocked him down. that one clip, when I was going through a very bad time in my life, I saw what I wanted to be. And it wasn't a guy that won. It wasn't a guy that won everything he did. It was a guy that kept getting up after being knocked down. So I realized if that 2 minutes and 13 seconds changed my life, that's all it was. I saw something that I needed to be in the world I was living in. Maybe my story will give someone the 2 minutes and 13 seconds they need to change their life. Millions of people live in a very comfortable place. That's fine. Don't listen to me. A lot of people are looking for that 2 minutes and 13 seconds. And I might be that person. And I believe that we're all teachers. We're all teachers. And if you don't learn something and give back like what you learned, what's the point of living?
And you're wasting.
Yeah, you're wasting. You have all this knowledge of what you learned. Some people may think you're crazy. Some people may put a title on you, but it is those few people who are like, you know what, I need to hear that. So you have to put yourself out there.
You genuinely are a legit badass.
Right.
And at one point in time, you were a legit terrified person.
Yes.
So what was the process? Like, how did you step forth?
Well, it's a long process.
Right.
My dad beat the shit out of me when I was growing up. I was the first black baby born in this hospital called Miller Fillmore in Buffalo, New York. My dad owned skating rinks, he owned bars, he ran prostitutes from Canada to Buffalo, New York. My dad was a big time pimp, big time, anything bad about a person, big time hustler. He was American, that movie with Denzel Washington? He was that, but not that bad.
Right.
He wasn't that big, but that's what it reminds me of. He was that kind of guy. And beat the shit out of me, out of my mom. There was an incident one time when my mom got knocked out on top of the stairs and he dragged her down the stairs by her hair. And at 6 years old, I'll never forget this. In my mind, I was always afraid. My whole life I was afraid, but I had this voice, this conscience that would always be battling me, saying, hey, you gotta get up and do something. I didn't want to do shit. I was just afraid, but that voice would force me to get up. And my dad, I tried to beat him up, whatever, at 6, and I get my ass kicked. So this went on for several years. And I have a big time learning disability because my dad didn't believe in us going to school. So my dad, it was about the business, the skating rink and the bar. So the skating rink opened about 7 o'clock at night. And this is when the time I was able to walk. So about 4, 5, 6 years old, 8, 9. And I go to this, skating rink at 7 o'clock at night. And I worked the skating rink until 10 at night, and then we would scrape the gum off the floors and we cleaned the whole skating rink up. And then my dad had an office, and my brother and myself would sleep in the office, and my mom would go upstairs and work the bar until 3 o'clock in the morning, and then they cleaned the bar up. So after all that shit was done with, going to school rarely happened. So when I went to school, I was all kind of, my learning disability, I had social anxiety. I was just a jacked up kid from living in this tortured home. From the outside looking in, we lived in an all-white neighborhood, and then we would travel to the ghetto of Buffalo, New York, where the skating rink was at. So we worked around mostly blacks, and I lived around mostly whites, but no one knew what was going on in that house on 201 Paradise Road. It's crazy. So I got the VFW award for the Americanism Award for military service and giving back. I'm as human can be. That's why what you see is what you get. At that moment when I was giving my speech, and I thanked my uncle for being there, and I got to my mom, it wasn't just about her. It was, I know what she went through, I know what I went through, and we got knocked down so much. I had a moment in front of all these great American heroes where I had a chance. It was like so fast, it went through me like lightning of, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm getting an award like this. That kid who was in the fetal position the majority of his life. And so much the fact that my body, my hip flexors are tight to this day, that even though I was standing erect, my mind was in the fetal position. And when I looked out amongst all those people it was a sense of pride that I can't even explain. It's the moments of 3 hell weeks. It's the moments of in that room by myself studying for hours and hours and hours, trying to catch up with all the kids who are above me. It's just those moments, like the real raw moments of life that was like, boom, hit me and we're gone. But I was like, I did that. I overcame that shit. You know, it's like, it's this power behind all that shit. And that's the feeling I was looking for in my life. I found it. It wasn't money, it wasn't fame, it wasn't awards. It was that feeling I have right now. The feeling of I'm about to break down, but it's not of like, oh my God, I'm upset. It's like I worked myself so hard that I turned a person this up into this right here. Not off of reading a book off a theorist, off of going to work on myself and saying, I don't know how to do this, but I know that to get over there to that side, I gotta grind myself into a fine powder. And I did it. I did it off of sure will. And very few people will know how that feels. Very few.